For the better part of about 3 years, Pokemon has been putting out just amazing artworks on their cards, and people really love buying these alt arts. They're excited about them. They're more rare than they have been in like other, prior generations. Like these big chase pulls are very, very hard to come by. So it's demanded some pretty big pricing. Now it's really curious to me, and this didn't really feel like it was the same way. Like during Sword and Shield, as these releases kind of came out, people were very excited for the cards that came in them. Even like when rainbows were really popular, you still had a lot of like hype around like the Rainbow Pikachu or like the Champions Path Charizard, right? Like these were huge cards before alt arts were released to the Sword and Shield era. We haven't really seen that with Scarlet and Violet. Scarlet and Violet has been definitely like, as these releases have been coming out, people are less and less excited about the cards that come out of them. I mean, with Temporal Forces, I feel like we did see a little bit of a spike. We saw like the Iron Crown get its time in the sun, and people really love the card, and I don't know, I love it too. It's great. It's an awesome artwork. But like something that's really like been bothering me lately is when you're looking at these like huge chase pulls from Sword and Shield, they're skyrocketing, even though their populations are, I don't know, their populations are massive. They're huge. You can pick up like really nice gem mint cards from Scarlet and Violet era, and they're like wicked cheap. Even like PSA 10s for like, between like $75 and like $200, you can get a lot of really awesome cards. They look amazing too. It's just kind of makes me think like people just want stuff when it's expensive. Like people just want stuff when it's expensive. Like
people just want stuff when it's expensive. Like
these cards that are coming out now are gorgeous, but nobody wants them. So I went out and I bought this here Garchomp EX from Paradox Rift, and I bought this, so it's a 9.5 gem mint, and I actually got this, I bid on it on eBay, and it's a beautiful card. There's really nothing wrong with this card at all. The borders look great, everything looks awesome, and this was like less than $40. Alt arts in Sword and Shield, when Sword and Shield was coming out, alt arts were not that cheap. Right off the rip, like right on release, they weren't that cheap. So to get gem mint copies, graded gem mint copies of popular Pokemon like freaking Garchomp for less than $40 is pretty crazy. And you're seeing that in Scarlet and Violet. It's kind of got me thinking like, is it time to get rid of the Sword and Shield purchases and just focus on Scarlet and Violet? Try to get as many gem mint copies of these cards as you can. The opportunity definitely seems to be shifting towards Scarlet and Violet, in my opinion. The artworks look great, and while people aren't like a huge fan of the gimmicks, they're not like super crazy about the hats and the Terra. I actually really liked it, the type changing part of it in the games. It was really fun to play with, but people aren't as excited about these cards, and there's definitely a possibility that these cards aren't popular in the future. But what it makes me think of is like X and Y. Like when X and Y was coming out, people weren't super excited about the megas. They weren't super excited about the way they looked or anything like that, and now people feel kind of a sense of nostalgia for them. So it really depends on how an era is received like down the road. That's what brings the value. So I don't know, Scarlet and Violet, there's some opportunity there. I think that we've got a lot of cards that can be picked up for cheap that are really good buys, and I'm really starting to feel like Sword and Shield era, especially some of these huge cards, just don't make a lot of sense. If Pokemon isn't as popular in a year or two, I mean, some of these alt arts are just gonna fall like crazy, I think. I mean, anything can happen, but the populations are so big that if demand were to dry up, I mean, you're talking about mass exodus.
You're talking about mass exodus.
If you had 10% of like Umbreon VMAX on eBay right now in PSA 10, only 10%. If 10% of people decided they want to sell that thing, that's over 1,000 copies on eBay at the same time. So I don't know. I mean, what are the odds, right? What are the odds? I don't know. You guys tell me what you think in the comment section. I love talking about this stuff. And if you haven't already, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.